Hey, how's it going? If you're new here, my name is Jan and I love makeup. And if you're not new, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you. So today's video is Eyeshadow Products and Application 101. It's kind of a breakdown of what to use, how to use it. This was a request from one of my new friends and I was so excited to take a whack at it. I sincerely hope that this helps you out or entertains you, something. I don't want to be condescending and a know-it-all. Hopefully that's not the vibe you'll get from this video. I just really want to help. So if there's something else similar to this that you'd like to see from me or something completely different, leave it in the comment section because I would be really happy to take a whack at it. Sometimes thinking up video ideas gets really hard. So let me know what you think down below. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, now's a great time to do that. I upload 4 videos a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you click on the little bell and choose all, YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. You can choose to watch it or not, totally up to you, no pressure. Either way, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. All right, I'm about to have a very naked face. Brace yourself. Okay, we're all zoomed in, ready to go. The first step for me is to prime my eyelids because they are very oily. And I don't know if you can see right now, but there's definitely some oil on my lids right now. Usually just kind of tap it out with my finger. And the eyeshadow primer that I've been really liking that seems to work with almost everything is the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas. I can't see what shade this is anymore, like the writing on the sticker's gone. It's just a light skin tone. And I prefer to put it on with my Rare Beauty concealer brush. Just really like how this works. So I dip in and get about that much on my brush and then kind of tap it over. You don't want to over apply eyeshadow primer, but you definitely want to make sure you get enough. And my eyelids are seriously discolored, so I like a tinted eye primer. Just gives an even base for applying eyeshadows. So I'm just gonna pat that out. Both eyes. And this base lasts forever. I use it almost every day, and I just did for yesterday, dipped into the actual component. I'd just been using what was on the cover. So that's done. This doesn't dry down, so if it takes me a few minutes to go from priming my eyelids to applying eyeshadow, I generally go back in and tap out any of the creasing that happens. Obviously, if you have a favorite eyeshadow primer, stick with that. You don't have to use what I'm using. I'm just telling you what works for me personally. So you have to decide if it will work for you as well. Let's talk about brushes. I'm going to use all Rephr brushes today. They're super easy to reference. They're numbered, so it's easy to read what brush it is, and I figured it would be easy enough if you wanted to check it out to either look at the Rephr brushes or use them as a comparison for something else that you would rather purchase. So the first brush I'm going to talk about is the Rephr 16. This is a fairly large, fluffy blending brush. This works really, really well for a transition shade or a crease shade. I have hooded eyes, so obviously what I'm gonna tell you works for my hooded eyes. If you don't have hooded eyes, you wouldn't necessarily have to use tiny brushes like I do. This is pretty much the biggest brush I use, and I pretty much only use it for transition and crease. And then I have 2 of my favorites. I have the Rephr 13, which is a very tiny blending brush, and the Rephr 14. These are great for detail, crease work, or outer corner work. I love these brushes. I have multiples in my collection because I use them pretty much every time I do my eyeshadow. They're excellent brushes, really small blending brushes. The last one I have is the Rephr number 2. This is a nice flat eyeshadow brush. It's really good for packing eyeshadow on the lids It's got a little bit of a fluffy end, so you could use it to blend out a little bit if you needed to. I do also want to mention the Rephr number 21 is dirty, because this is what I like to use for shimmer shades. I wet this and use this for all my shimmer shades. I do have a few others from other companies. I have this one from BH, which if you compare the two, the BH one is quite a bit bigger, and I do prefer a smaller one. But this works. I'm gonna do the same shimmer shade all over my whole lid. This is great for that. I also have this itty bitty BH Cosmetics one, which I really liked, which I really like for doing multiple shades and using this on the inner portion of my lid because it's small and doesn't get eyeshadow where I don't want it. So those are the 5 basic brushes that I think pretty much everyone needs to get a decent eye look. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Rephr. It can be a drugstore version of similarly sized brushes. So for today's video, I'm going to use my Tarte Maneater palette. I love this palette. I used it in a Throwback Thursday video. It's so good. It's still available, so of course I will link it below. I'll link everything below, the brushes, like everything. So if you want to take a reconnoiter, it's easy enough for you. Okay, so I'm gonna do a very basic eye look using the 4 brushes that I have and just really talk about what I'm doing and show you every step. Typically when I'm doing these videos, I will edit out like the time-consuming buffing that I do. But if you don't know that's what's happening behind the scenes, then you wouldn't know to do that. So I figured I would go in unedited almost. All right, I'm going to see how it creased a little bit in my crease. I'm just gonna blend that out. If you want a softer eyeshadow look, you could absolutely put a flesh toned or translucent powder over the eye primer, and it would make blending or what have you a little easier. So biggest brush, lightest color that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use the shade Purr. Because my eyes are hooded, my actual crease you can't see, it's in there. So for my transition shade, which is what this is going to be, I'm actually going to bring it up much higher than where my actual crease is. If you don't have hooded eyes, it would probably be in the same spot on your eyes. It just wouldn't be so far above your crease. So I'm really just gonna spend a few minutes blending and buffing this out. Itty bitty little motions. Wherever you lay your brush down first is where most of the shadow is going to be. And I typically start here because then I figure I can blend inward and outward and it will be totally fine. I also normally tape up my eyes because I like a nice, crisp, lifted outer eye look. But today we're not going to do that. I'm playing fast and loose, and I'm probably going to be sorry. Okay, I think I like where that is. So I'm going to quickly jump off camera, do my other eye, and then we'll come back and work on the crease shade. I think I like how that looks right now. I also should mention that you can come back and blend and add more. Like, this isn't it. You don't have to be completely done here if you need to do other things to make it look good. So on my Rephr 14, which is the next smallest brush I picked for today, I'm gonna go into the shade Saucy, just super lightly on my brush, and I'm gonna put that still above my crease because you can't see my crease, and I'm going to work that in mostly out here where I want most of the pigment, and then as there's less and less on my brush, I'll start to bring it in a little bit. This is basically just contouring your eye. I'm applying very little pressure to my skin. I'm holding the brush down pretty low. That way you get a nice, soft, even blend. These eyeshadows blend out super easy. They're really, really nice. And while I'm thinking of it, I do want to say you don't have to use neutral tones. If you want to go in with green or blue or purple or orange or any color, it doesn't matter. You would just typically start with the lightest shade as your transition shade, which is the shade highest up on your eye. Then you go to the next deepest shade that you're going to use, and that goes just a little bit lower. All right, I'm going to do the other eye, and I'll be right back. Now, on that first fluffy brush, I'm going to go back into the shade Purr just a tiny bit, and I'm going to run it over the edge of where I put the second shade. Just want to make sure everything's blended really, really nicely. It is the most important step. Just rude. Just blend and blend and blend. I would probably not switch from the Rephr 14 to the 13 because they're close to the same size. They're both very, very tiny. But for today's purposes, I'm going to, because I want you to know exactly like what I'm doing and how it works and all of that. So we're going to take the Rephr 13, which is a little bit smaller than the 14, not much. We're going to dip into the shade Midnight. And that's a really nice deep brown. And I'm just going to tap this on my outer, third of my lid. Let's get a little bit more. And then up into my actual crease. Lower than the second shade we put on, but definitely still touching it, like they're all overlapping each other. It's just tapping it on and then blending it out. And you can't really see where one shade starts and the next shade ends, which for me is the goal, especially with these like crease shades, matte shades. I think it looks so much better when you can't see where one shade ends and the next shade starts. And you'll notice the darker my eyeshadows get, the less far I take it in to the inner portion of my eye. I think for most people, we want a brighter inner portion and a darker outer. It makes your eye look bigger, and who doesn't want that? So the darker the shade gets, the farther we keep it out here. Does that make sense? Now on my Rephr number 2, we're gonna go into the shade Foxy, which is a shimmer shade. But the nice thing about the number 2 brush is that it works for both shimmer and matte. And we're just gonna put that on the inner portion and bring it over to meet up where the dark brown ends over here. Go back in for a little bit more. And because my eyes are hooded, I always bring my shimmer shade up into my crease. It's going to end up there anyway. As soon as I look up, it's gonna transfer. So if I do this, it looks intentional and it can be exactly where I want it, and I can adjust the shape. That's pretty much that. So that's the eyelid basically done as far as eyeshadow is concerned. So I'm going to pop off camera, do the rest of my face, and then I'll come back and we'll do the lower lash line. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. Obviously my face is done, so let's finish up the under eyes. I'm gonna go back in with that number 2 pencil. I just cleaned it off on a color switch. And I'm going to, on the very tip, like flat on the tip here, I'm going to dip into the shade Midnight, which was that dark brown we put on in the outer corner of the eye. And starting out there on my lower lash line, I'm gonna blend it in. That way the upper lid and the bottom lid meet up and look similar. I really just one little tap in on the very top bottom edge. I'm gonna clean that off again on my color switch. And using just the tip of it again, I'm gonna go into the shade Lace. I'm gonna place that on my inner corner and just a little to meet up where we left off with the brown shade on my under eye. I had mentioned earlier we wanted the brightness on the inner portion and the depth and darkness on the outer, and that's how we get that. You could go in with any eyeliner you want to, nude, black, brown, nothing, something bright and fun. If you don't love color but want to play with a little bit, a waterline, colorful eyeliner is a really great way to start with adding color into your makeup routine. Since my lips are hot pink, I'm not gonna do a bright waterline eyeliner. I'm probably just gonna go in and line both the top and the bottom with brown. And then I'm going to put on a little bit of my Rare Beauty mascara. I will zoom you out and come back and we'll wrap this up. All right, that's it, done and dusted. This concludes the Eyeshadow 101 video. I hope I didn't come across as a know-it-all or condescending, because I really don't want to be that guy. I mentioned before this was a request from one of my new friends, and I wanted to do it and do a good job. So I hope this video helps you. If there's something else like this that you'd want to see from me, let me know in the comments down below, because I would be happy to do it. Lips, brows, like you name it, and I will give it a whirl. I really appreciate hanging out with me today. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Be good, and remember to be kind to you.